Midsommar is a 2019 horror film directed by Ari Aster. Dan is played by Florence Pugh as Danny Arter, Jack Rayner as Christian, Will Poulter as Mark, William Jackson Harper as Josh, and Wilhelm Blomgren as Pell. Midsommar is a horror film with a tragedy of sadistic murders carried out by a pagan cult, who believe that their rituals will result in a successful harvest and maintain the fertility of their land. And let's get right into the storyline. One day, Christian and his friends, Mark, Will Poulter, Josh, William Jackson Harper, and Pell, Wilhelm Blomgren, are invited to a midsummer festival in Harga, a remote village in Sweden. Pell, who is from Harga, invites Danny to come along, and despite his initial hesitation, he decides to go with them. They finally departed, but before they arrived in Sweden, they were invited by Pell to stop for a moment in a beautiful place. And there they were given medicine for their hallucinations. At first Danny refused to take the drug, but finally Danny took it. After that they started hallucinating, like seeing a strange natural beauty, mirage. The reaction was due to the drug they were taking. But Danny suddenly came to her senses when she remembered her family who had died. Danny walked aimlessly, then was found by his friend and girlfriend Danny asleep in a beautiful expanse of grass. Then they continued their journey to their destination. The group arrived in Sweden and were immediately received by the locals, who seemed welcoming and friendly. However, as time went on, they began witnessing increasingly strange and disturbing rituals. The festival is held once every 90 years and is presided over by a pagan cult, who believe their rituals will result in a successful harvest and maintain the fertility of their land. Christian and other friends also danced at the Price Tribe festival. But Danny was not affected by the dance. Pell then wished Danny a happy birthday by giving Danny a gift in the form of a painting of Danny's face using a flower crown on her head. Danny also really likes the painting that Pell gave to Danny. It can be seen that Pell likes Danny secretly. Pell then invited them to go around, while answering questions from his friends. After that, Pell escorted them to their inn. And they were surprised by their place of lodging, because it was surrounded by unique paintings in every corner of the room. Pell then tells Christian that today is Danny's birthday. Christian then gives Danny a birthday surprise with a simple cake, and Danny is very happy. Evening came, they had to rest. But Danny was very surprised to see a woman put a hammer under the pillow of a baby's bed. Meanwhile, Pell came and invited all his friends to sleep because tomorrow they would attend the Testapa ritual, but Pell did not want to tell them what the ritual meant. The next day, the Harga tribe was ready with the Testapa ritual. Before the ritual was carried out, it was seen that members of the Harga tribe had performed ceremonies in the form of cult glorification songs. Also seen, there has been prepared a table for eating and drinking. Then came an old grandfather and his wife who was elderly in blue clothes, and a boy then rang the bell indicating the ritual would soon begin. At the beginning of the ritual, they have to eat and drink very quietly and regularly, and it is also seen that the grandparents speak their language, which means they are ready to carry out the ritual. After that, the grandparents were brought down to a hill. They started exploring the area and taking part in the ritual activities. They witness a disturbing ceremony in which two elderly members of the community are killed in ritual suicide. They asked a member of Price's cult about the Testapa ritual, and they found it to be an absurd ritual, because it has to sacrifice people's lives. However, a mother member of the cult explained that it is a cycle of life, where the elderly will eventually die and be replaced by a new generation. However, Danny and his friends disagreed with the Testapa's ritual. According to them, it was an absurd and disgusting ritual. Danny is very disturbed by the events of the ritual. Danny wants to leave the place. But Pell tried to calm Danny. One night, Josh saw something strange happen to a woman named Najwa who had placed a foreign object under Christian's bed. The next day, Josh was curious about the foreign object. Danny is very disturbed by the events of the ritual. Danny wants to leave the place. But Pell tried to calm Danny. One night, Josh saw something strange happen to a woman named Najwa who had placed a foreign object under Christian's bed. The next day, Josh was curious about the foreign object he saw. Suddenly, the residents were very angry at Mark because the trees trusted by residents were ancestral trees to be a place where Mark to urinate. Pell also explained to Mark that it was the place of their ancestors. Then, Connie immediately packed to leave the place because her boyfriend, according to the Price member, had gone to the station to leave the place. Connie seemed to not believe that Simon, the boyfriend, suddenly left him without any notice. Danny began to be suspicious of that strange. Danny also told Christian about it, but Christian did not respond to he was busy with research for his thesis needs. Meanwhile, Christian is struggling to write his thesis at the festival and further away from Danny. He became interested in a local girl, Mata, who had been chosen to marry him as part of the cult breeding program. One by one, their group members began to disappear without clear news why they suddenly left the place. Danny and Christian were asked where Josh and Mark were asked. The two of them could not explain where their friends went. Christian is increasingly ensnared with Maya, while Danny is increasingly washing and overwhelmed by his emotions. He witnessed the ritual where a young girl was chosen to be the Queen of May, and Danny was finally named the Queen himself. 20. And it has become a tradition that the selected queen must bless the harvest and livestock in the Price. Danny is considered to bring good luck to the Price tribes. Danny, as the queen, was chosen to be driving a train to get around. Danny requested that he could be with Christian riding the train, but not allowed. That is a strategy made by their tribal tribes to marry Christian and Maya. While Danny went around by train, Christian was prepared to marry Maya. A series of rituals must be performed by Christian, and finally Christian was given up with Maya. A very strange marriage ritual, but Christian was forced to do it because of the drug given the sect. After traveling around, Danny finally finished with his ritual. Danny then approached the place where Christian and Maya were undergoing a marriage process. Seeing that, Danny was so shaken and so sad that she cried with deep sadness. The marriage ritual finally finished. Christian woke up and ran without clothes out of the house. At that time, Christian saw the feet of one of Josh's friends who had died. Christian also ran around looking for a place to hide, but there he saw his friend named Simon also died in a state of being hung on the rush. Finally, Christian was also paralyzed by one of the sect members. Danny was given the choice between sacrificing Christian or one of the local women. He chose to sacrifice Christian, who was burned alive in a strange ritual. Danny himself was filled with sadness and began to cry happily. The film ends with Danny smiling and laughing among the members of the sect, fully embracing their way of life. The last shot showed he smiled and wore a flower crown, surrounded by cult members when they all began to sway and dance in unison. What do you think with the storyline? Your criticism and suggestions are waiting in the comments column. Thank you.